Hello everyone, I hope you're taking it easy and your day has been great thus far. For this video we'll be going through a unboxing and review of Deluxe class Bumblebee, and this version of Bumblebee is part of the main Transformers Rise of the Beast Deluxe figure subline. So I've been harping on about this for a while and here we are. 5 Deluxes and 3 Voyagers to look at in the upcoming weeks, so yes, I will regret this, but that is okay. Front of the packaging for Bumblebee. Not looking too bad. Has a nice array of color apps, which we'll see more of in a bit. Nice little CGI art of Bumblebee there as well, although can't help but feel his face looks weird. I don't know, maybe it's me. It's probably just me. Some of that image just spills over to the other side of the box, and we have another headshot of Bumblebee and the Deluxe class label. Back of the box, 19 steps of transformation, Bumblebee in his robot mode and his alt mode. We have seen this particular alt mode a few times, twice in fact, Studio Series Bumblebee, which I believe, if memory is okay, that was SS100, and we've seen another version of this as the Battle Changer, which, yeah, let's leave it at that. Looks like there'll be some additional accessories as well, so that'll be cool. So that's the main packaging, not too bad. Might have a very quick look at the backing stock that they use to attach the figure to, just to see what type of hieroglyphs there are, but other than that, it's time to have a better look at Bumblebee. And with Bumblebee now out of its packaging, so what do we have? We have a manual, as to be expected, Bumblebee himself, and a total of 3 little accessories, although I suspect these two at the bottom do actually combine back together again, but I will admit, I haven't looked at the manual yet, so I cannot confirm how they do that. Now, I mentioned having a quick look at the backing board, which it's actually nice to see all the various hieroglyphs referenced. We have seen snippets of them throughout different packaging, but it is nice to actually see them all together. Especially knowing that at this point in time, from what I've seen, I will admit I'm trying not to hit every single teaser and trailer and everything. I don't feel there's been a lot of representation from the Predacons or the Decepticons. A lot of Autobots, a lot of Maximals, but yeah, I don't know where the Predacons and the Decepticons are, with the exception of the figure line, which has Skull Cruncher from the Decepticon side, and we'll have a Scorponok later on from the Predacon side. So yeah, be interesting. But yeah, it's nice to actually see some of these hieroglyphs a bit more up close. So there is that. Now most of the packaging throughout the Deluxe line and the Voyager line will be all like that, so don't expect to see that too often. So I'll move these over. Bumblebee, you can move over there. Okay, so we do have some quick steps on the accessories. So you can equip them both into his hands individually, and his little, I'm not too sure what to say of that rig, but goes on his arm. And likewise, you can also just use one of them, and he actually has a transformable, well, reversible hand for a weapon. So that's actually pretty cool. Looking at the rest of the instructions, it doesn't look too bad. So that's the first 10 steps. And then lastly, going through the final 19 steps, attaching the accessories onto the chassis of the vehicle, and that's that. So definitely very, very cool. So it's actually nice that you could have them not attached as well, if you're so inclined. So that was the manual. Will I need that later on? Probably. In fact, I might need it now. Let's put it down here. So here we have one of Bumblebee's accessories, which I will do exactly per the manual and attach it to his side of his forearm. Supposed to go that way? Have I done it the wrong way already? I think I've done it the wrong way already. Ah, brilliant. I guess it could go either way. There's only one attachment there, by the way. And then these other little small daggers of his can go into his hands like so, in theory. There's one. And there's two. So they do get held in the hand quite nicely. I do have a comment about his tabbing in his robot mode, which I'll mention later. But there we go. Bumblebee equipped with both of his little dagger accessories and his little windscreen item. And because it's built in, his hand will do the nice little flippy for his handheld blaster, which I think is very cool. That is actually very nice. And it's a gimmick that we've seen before where you just basically flip it out and then watch me not be able to flip it back in. There we go. So that was that. So not bad a collection of accessories. It's actually nice that he has a few accessories to play with. And yeah, we'll take those off. At some point we will look at these again later. In fact, I'm doing it off screen. That's the actual combined look of the two daggers. But we'll see those again in the vehicle mode. Bumblebee. So thankfully, yes, you will stand on your own 2 feet completely unaided. Front of Bumblebee, which I will admit does look very cool. The side of Bumblebee. The back. Kibble. The other side. And a nice little close-up of Bumblebee's head and main torso. So definitely not a bad look in terms of colours. So Bumblebee being Bumblebee, he is his usual primary golden yellow with bits of black throughout, a bit of silver, a bit of grey, and then we do have bits of blue for the headlights, windows and things like that, as well as his eyes. So he is sprinkled with some nice colours to break up some of that yellow, which is very, very cool. Now, before I get started, I've noticed this literally straight out of the box. So he does have a tab in this torso bit here, and there is a hole for it, and it does tab in, but I feel it just doesn't feel very secure in that you just move him around a little bit and something will untab. So it's a little bit frustrating. There's been multiple times already that I've had to just re-tab that connection. In fact, you can see me struggling a bit now. I think some of it just comes down to applying too much pressure on his back, or if something hasn't actually folded properly there. In fact, now I've just made him look like he's doing some weird split things, which actually looks very unsightly. Why won't you tab it? So yes, I don't know if this is just with mine in particular or not, but yeah, that's going to progressively drive me crazy. In fact, it's driving me crazy already. You know what? Let's just tab in. Bumblebee, you're actually infuriating me. This is great. Why do we need to do this right now? This will probably be the very first time I've actually struggled with that figure while doing the recording. Bumblebee, how? This is a perfect reason why I do not do live transformations often. What? Okay, I'm gonna try and navigate around this now. The back, I did mention the kibble had a quick laugh about it. It's also not too bad. It does try to stay fairly streamlined, so it could be a lot worse, but thankfully it isn't. Doesn't defeat the whole it's still there, but it could be worse. Anyway, let's see if I can actually get through the articulation without hurling Bumblebee across the room. Bumblebee, head. You will have... you won't have 360. You'll have 270 maybe? 180 possibly. Either way, you can tilt your head to the left and the right, not a problem. You have some minor head tiltage at the neck itself, but not a lot. Or you can do the extreme, just lift that whole panel up, which has a tab, but I swear I have no idea what it's tabbing into. So that's that. Arms, well, you definitely won't have full 360 at the shoulders because of your traditional corridors being your shoulder wings, but you can still get a good amount of a range of movement. Your arm can still go all the way out, which is good. It can still go all the way to the front as well. And yeah, so that's definitely being done by a nice little ball and socket at the shoulder. As for the elbow, typical 90 degree, and it definitely will not do anything weird going backwards. The elbow will also sport a nice little 360 rotation there as well, so that's definitely good. And as we saw already when we did the accessories, we know he does have a blaster hidden here that just flips out. Otherwise the rest of his hand has no movement. Because his other arm is slightly different, his actual wrist joint is a nice little 360 rotation, and I'm not rotating the whole upper arm, so you can do a nice little rotation on that, which is cool. As for the waist, yeah, there's a little bit of side to side, not too much, mainly because top of the legs start impacting the back area. As for the legs, sadly not a full split. They can still go all the way to the front, all the way to the back, and you know, if you open out to the side, you can go so far to the back. Bumblebee, you are literally driving me crazy right now. As for the knee, this is actually going to be my first infuriating video. As for the... oh, it's one of those knees. So it's one of those weird... it's not a free motion knee. It's one of those weird like little tabby type knees where you just basically tab it through each position, so it clicks through twice to get a 90-degree bend. I wonder if it'll actually go further. No, it will not. So 1, 2, pretty much will do the knee. So it's both good and bad. Good in the sense that it's super sturdy. Bad in the sense that some of those like knees that have those very fixed positions, dynamic posing can regrettably be a little bit of a challenge. And seriously, I should have started with the Pablo joke. Let's try and get through this. For the bottom of the legs, they'll be side to side with the foot, which is good. We're just going to do this now, and the foot can also go front and back as well, so at least anchoring his feet down will be good. Try and get around some of that interesting little knee mechanism for it. Bumblebee, if I ever manage to live past through this, you are staying in your vehicle mode forevermore. But yeah, that's the articulation done. This is annoying me to high heaven, and I like to think I'm usually a bit patient, but this is actually testing it. So now that we've had a look at the articulation, which actually isn't too bad, it's pretty standard for a Deluxe. My only grievance is probably the tabbing method within the knee. I'm going to transform Bumblebee because that tab is doing it, and it's driving me crazy. So yeah, hopefully in a few split seconds I will transform him. He will be in his car, and I will not have hurled him across the whole room. Okay, now that I've survived that experience. Here is Bumblebee in his alt mode. I'm going to just tab everything back in. So, front of his alt mode, the side, and yes, the bottom, yes, the back, the other side, the top, the interesting underbelly, and yeah, I mean, that's a bit of a nice little close-up on his front as well. So the transformation wasn't too bad. It does have some nice tabbing around. Like, it definitely wasn't super duper terrible, which is good, but at the same time, yeah, just it did feel a little bit clunky in a few places. Now, to the point about tabbing, so when the legs are in the right orientation, there's some tabbing that will basically go into the underneath of the back of the vehicle. There's some tabbing here in the forearms. Can I do that just to make it look a bit more uniform? Some tabbing of the front wheels into the shoulders as well, and there is some bit of tabbing here. So the tabbing does help, which is good, but I don't know, I'm not feeling it so far. Now, I have attached the accessories onto the front of Bumblebee as well as his front windscreen, so they definitely don't look too bad. It's nice. I mean, I think this is one of the few times where attaching accessories to the vehicle has actually worked out really, really well. Now, I don't know if it's just me. The colours for Bumblebee just seem really weird. So the front and the rear seem to be the same golden yellow, but the yellow here, and I suspect it's because of the translucent blue and how the paint has been applied on top of it, instead of having this nice golden yellow look, it actually looks more like, I dare say from my good old days of playing 40k, like Bad Moon yellow. I was going to say Bad Spoon, but I'm pretty sure it's not Spoon. It does look visually weird. So there's that. Articulation wise, he will have 4 independent wheels, which they do work, especially when he's perfectly flush, which he is not at the moment for whatever number of reasons, I'm sure. So that is Bumblebee's alt mode. Doesn't look too bad, but I think my thoughts are probably going to be a bit biased, given that I have looked at the Studio series, but that'll come in a moment. So Bumblebee alt mode. So we've looked at the colors, we had a quick look around at you, what articulation you have, and yeah, I'm not a big fan of the underbelly. Anyway, let's bring this back as a bit of my mental prompting. So, final thoughts of Deluxe class Bumblebee of the main movie line. Robot mode. Biggest pet peeve, that tabbing in the torso. Now, to be fair, it could just be mine. In which case, I'm very, very unlucky. These things happen. I'm pretty sure once I've done this video, the shorts and everything, I will be very reluctant to do anything with Bumblebee. Unless I really need to. That's my current train of thought. That tab, and as you would have seen, was quite testing, to say the least. Other things that I thought diminished some of the figure were the knees. So if they were the more free-flowing knees, I wouldn't have had a problem. But because they're the weird the weird tabbing and fixed position type knees, which I think was my grievance with the Stunticon Wild Rider. Yeah, I'm not sure why they use those knees. Yes, they're sturdy, but I think I always prefer to have more freely flexible knees than have them as sturdy ones, but personal preference, understandable. The other thing that I thought was a little bit unfortunate was some of his back kibbling. This is Bumblebee. He's historically had the kibbling there through many iterations of his figures. But in saying that, it did feel fairly flush, and maybe if it wasn't for the frustrating little torso tab not tabbing, I may not have been fazed by it as much. Maybe. In terms of actual like strengths of the robot mode, the accessory inclusion is really cool. Between, you know, the little windscreen grill, the two little daggers from his front grill, and the fact that he does have a inbuilt arm blaster, I think is actually quite neat. So that is actually really, really cool. Especially with the arm blaster, it feels like it's a bit of a call back to some of the earlier movie line figures where some of their weapons were actually well and truly integrated into their body. The colors aren't too bad, and some of the additional color apps do help give it a bit more color and separation, so that's actually not too bad. So overall, assuming his articulation doesn't completely fall into a heap, his robot mode is okay, and I'll probably leave it at that, especially since the tabbing drove me insane. The vehicle mode. The transformation to the vehicle mode wasn't too bad, and I think after a few practices you'd probably be able to do it quite intuitively with no issues. It did feel a bit clunky compared to some of his previous toy iterations, but we got there in the end, so that's okay. The inclusions of his accessories into his vehicle mode is really, really cool. So transformation wise, it's not too bad. It's, what was it, 19 steps, I believe? So yeah, it was enjoyable enough. The alt mode specifically, so the biggest peeves, the underbelly just feels like a complete mess. So looking at it from here, like you can just see the arms and the feet, especially from the back of the Chimera. Once again, okay. Feet and arms. So he does feel a little bit clunky and visually messy for his vehicle mode. The colors, and I don't know if it's because of the fact that the yellow has gone over a translucent blue, and that's just how the yellow has unfortunately treated over time. It looks a little visually jarring because you have the nice consistent golden yellow and then just this weird brighter yellow in the middle. It just looks really weird. So that's, your mileage will vary on that, I guess. But everything else doesn't look too bad. Given that it's just a mainline deluxe, you can't expect it to do anything and everything, so I guess you just have to accept that as it is. So it's okay to look at, but yeah, I think overall okay is probably going to be my general thought for this version of Bumblebee. So overall thought, as I said, he's okay. He's got a few things that doesn't work for him. He's got the odd thing that actually does. But yeah, nothing screams out as a must get. But nothing, fortunately for the figure, screams out as a must not get. Now, because I've done the Studio Series 100 Bumblebee, which is basically the same Bumblebee from Rise of the Beasts, I do remember in that video I actually said I thought that was one of the better Bumblebee iterations for a while. So, and I know this video isn't comparing them yet, but I'll do the shorts. Well, retrospectively I'll do the short, but the short's probably gone live. I will do the two Bumblebees together, so this mainline deluxe versus the Studio Series Bumblebee, just for some comparisons. So if someone asked, should they get this figure? I would say, 1, is it because you have a budget? 2, is it because you can't get your hands on a SS100 Bumblebee? Or 3, are you a must grab everything type person? I probably fall in category 3 myself, but subject to how you answer those would be basically how the answer would be to what I recommend this version of Bumblebee. If you can access Studio Series 100 Bumblebee, I would recommend that. This one is okay, but if you're happy to spend a little bit more, the Studio Series figure is available. I would actually recommend go for the Studio Series, potentially give this one a miss. Now if you're a weird completionist, it doesn't matter, you'll get both. So that bit I can't do much about. So that's probably where I actually stand with this particular Bumblebee. Not great, not terrible, ultimately okay, but there are better iterations of him elsewhere, i.e. Studio Series 100. So that would be my general thought on that. Now I do know Studio Series 100 Bumblebee is not perfect either. If I remember correctly, some of his paint apps were a bit on the disappointing side, given previous iterations had a bit more paint apps included on them. So I'm not saying Studio Series 100 Bumblebee is perfect, but I think there's more value, enjoyment, playability. I'll actually fence it because there's a few things on this one that actually it does well, the accessories being that. So depending what interests you, you could be swayed either way. But there you go. If it was literally a choice between, so if there was one of each on a shelf right in front of you and only one, and you could only pick one, I would actually lean towards get the Studio Series. But yes, can't like them all. Plus at the same time, we have had a lot of Bumblebees, so could also be hitting a bit of Bumblebee fatigue as they try to do something different, but don't do it too well. So that'll bring us to the end of the unboxing and review of the Deluxe class Bumblebee from the Rise of the Beasts movie Deluxe line. I'm kind of hoping the other Deluxes aren't as disappointing. I'm a bit iffy with Airraiser and Cheetor. I'm hoping to be proven wrong. Nightbird, I haven't seen enough to be swayed either way, so that'll be an interesting one. And Wheeljack, or Pablojack as I like to call him. Not to mention, I'm sure once I get to that one, I'll have comments with Pablo every second comment, which is fine. I'm optimistic about Pablojack, but time will tell. So hopefully the other 4 Deluxes will be better. I know Mirage is still outstanding, but yeah, Bumblebee, if there's going to be 6 Deluxes out, Bumblebee has unfortunately definitely earned himself into the bottom percentile, but oh well, someone had to be there. Thank you very much for watching this unboxing and review video. Feel free to leave a like, comment, subscribe if you enjoyed the video. All of this does help support the channel. I do greatly appreciate it. Extra content can also be found on my Instagram account. Link to that is in the description below. With that all being said, stay safe and take care, and I will see you in a future video, which will either be more Rise of the Beasts, more general Transformers, or something else on the channel. See ya.